Every day you are faced with a battlefield. It doesn't look like war, not in the traditional sense. There are no swords clashing, no enemies clad in armor. The weapons are more insidious: distraction, doubt, temptation, fear, and despair disguised as logic. The battlefield, it's not out there. It's right here, inside your own mind. And the war is unrelenting. From the moment you wake up, your attention is under siege. Notifications, anxieties, insecurities, regrets from yesterday, worries for tomorrow, all competing for dominance over your present moment. You are expected to be everything, everywhere, all the time. To stay relevant, to stay productive, to stay ahead. And yet, amid this mental noise, something quietly breaks down. Your sense of clarity, your strength of will, your inner peace. How do you stay rooted when everything around you is chaos? How do you protect your mind when the modern world is a storm of information, misinformation, and endless urgency? How do you hold your ground while others spiral? The Stoics had an answer, a deep, enduring one. They taught that while you cannot control the external world, you can govern the inner one, and in doing so, transform how you experience life itself. To be smart is not simply to absorb facts. It is to interpret wisely, to judge correctly, to discern what truly matters and what is noise. To be strong is not about muscle or dominance. It's about your ability to endure, to remain centered, to persist in the face of adversity, and to be unstoppable. That is the outcome of vision fused with discipline, of clarity walking hand in hand with action. It's not fueled by ego, but by inner resolve. The Stoics didn't pursue control over others. They pursued mastery over themselves. They understood that true freedom is not found in having more, but in needing less, in fearing less, in desiring less, and in becoming more. This video is not just a set of ideas. It's a call to arms. It's an invitation to step out of the fog of reaction and into the sharp light of awareness. It is a philosophical strategy for rising above the clamor of modern life so you can create a mind that is sharp and discerning, a soul that is composed and unshakable, and a life that cannot be stopped, not because it is immune to struggle, but because it is trained to thrive within it. Chapter 1. Be Smart, Mastering the Art of Discernment. The Stoics taught that wisdom begins with clarity of thought, of perception, and of intention. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." This timeless insight remains profoundly relevant. In today's world, where we are bombarded by alerts, opinions, and overwhelming possibilities, most of our distress doesn't come from actual events, but from our thoughts about them. Fear of failure isn't rooted in failure itself. It's rooted in a story we've told ourselves. Fear of judgment has less to do with others and more to do with our own inner critic. Anxiety about the future doesn't stem from what will happen, but from what we imagine might go wrong. These are not tangible threats. They are mental shadows we can learn to recognize and dispel. To be smart, then, is not about being a repository of information. It is about being a guardian of perception. It is the ability to look at situations and separate what is real from what is imagined, what is factual from what is assumed. It is the sharpening of reason, like a blade honed through critical thought. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And in that one truth lies the gateway to every rational decision and every moment of inner peace. Being smart does not mean you are unaffected. It means you are not misled. It is not detachment born of indifference. It is engagement born of awareness. The smart mind does not rush. It pauses. It listens. It questions. It holds space for reflection before reaction. It observes both inner and outer worlds and considers, Is this reaction necessary? Is this belief true? Is this feeling based on something within my control, or am I spinning illusions out of emotion? And crucially, am I acting on a principle or simply reacting from habit? This deliberate pause before response is not weakness, it is strength in disguise. It allows you to navigate chaos with clarity. When others are swept up in emotion, your stillness becomes power. It is the difference between living a life of reaction and living a life of reflection, between being led by the noise of the world or led by the signal of your own principles. Smart thinking is a daily discipline, cultivated over time and refined by intention. It begins in the subtle, often overlooked choices we make about what enters our mental sphere. What conversations do we engage in and allow to influence our attitudes? What kind of media do we absorb passively, and how does it affect our subconscious thinking? What stories do we replay in our heads again and again until they become belief? These seemingly small decisions are, in fact, massive. They shape how we view ourselves, others, and the world. And a wise person, one truly committed to being smart, learns to become the diligent gatekeeper of their own consciousness. Being smart also requires humility, a recognition that the truth isn't always what we want it to be. It's the capacity to acknowledge that we don't always see clearly, especially when we are emotionally charged or personally invested. Our emotions, though deeply human and powerful, are not always reliable indicators of truth. They're signals, not commands. The Stoics weren't trying to extinguish emotions, but to put them into context. They weren't cynical, they were vigilant. They trained themselves to challenge assumptions, to step back from first impressions, and to cultivate habits of thought that lead to clarity instead of confusion. In our modern lives, clarity begins with filtering, both of the external and internal. It begins with a firm decision that not every piece of news deserves your anxiety, not every opinion deserves your rebuttal, and not every fleeting thought deserves your belief. Our minds are like fertile ground. Whatever seeds we allow to land there, if left unchecked, will grow. Smart living is not passive. It is an active form of vigilance, a constant pruning of what belongs and what doesn't. It is a decision to live in awareness rather than default, to consciously edit the input before it becomes identity. The Stoics were masters of this discipline. They understood that the quality of one's thoughts shapes the quality of one's life. When you guard your attention, you preserve your energy. When you pause to question your automatic thoughts, you reclaim your autonomy. Smart living is not about being rigid, but about being precise, choosing what you dwell on and what you release. It's the constant tuning of your internal compass to remain aligned with your values, rather than the chaos of the crowd. It is the lifelong practice of identifying your mental habits, both those that serve you and those that sabotage you, and making deliberate decisions to keep reinforcing the useful ones while starving the destructive ones. And this work never ends. Each day is a new chance to refine your thinking, to correct course, to build better judgment through self-reflection. The battle is never once and done. It is ongoing, and it is noble. To train this skill is to make a long-term investment in your own inner peace, your future clarity, and your sense of self-worth. It means developing a mind that is not simply open, but discerning. That doesn't just absorb information, but questions its source and impact. That doesn't just react instinctively, but considers the consequences of every word, every action, every belief. That doesn't simply survive the chaos, but shapes order from it. To be smart is not a fixed trait gifted at birth, it is a cultivated art. A way of seeing the world that prioritizes awareness over assumption, reflection over reactivity, and truth over convenience. It is built one mindful moment at a time, one choice at a time, one filter at a time. And the more you train this way of living, the more resilient your reasoning becomes, the more agile your thoughts become, the more composed your inner world becomes, no matter the disorder outside of it. In a world where many are drowning in distraction, your ability to think with clarity becomes your superpower. Try this practice today. When something upsets you, write it down. Then ask, what actually happened? What story did I tell myself? Where's the gap? That gap is your training ground. Over time, this mental habit creates the muscle of discernment, the foundation of true intelligence. Chapter 2. Be strong, the discipline of the will. Strength in Stoicism is not domination. It is endurance. It is composure. It is the capacity to remain whole under pressure. Epictetus said, "Difficulties show men what they are." When life applies pressure, who are you? We often admire physical strength, but it is the strength of character that truly defines a person. We live in a culture that idolizes the visible, the chiseled body, the firm handshake, the loud voice. But it is the invisible inner strength that determines how far someone will go. True strength is quiet, resilient, and deeply rooted. It's not about appearances, it's about fortitude. Can you remain kind when provoked by cruelty? Can you persist when the weight of fatigue tells you to stop? Can you stay calm in the eye of emotional storms? These are the quiet questions that reveal real strength. The Stoics believed that the strongest person was not the one who could lift the most or command the room, but the one who could govern themselves in every situation. The ability to endure insult without bitterness, to remain focused under attack, to speak with reason while under pressure, these are the signs of true inner power. The strength they cultivated was rooted in deliberate thought and disciplined action. They knew that life would present resistance, loss, rejection, humiliation, pain, and they chose to treat these not as obstacles, but as opportunities to grow stronger. They trained themselves to be prepared for life's blows. They anticipated difficulty, not with dread, but with readiness. This isn't about becoming numb to the world. It's not about turning off your feelings or pretending to be untouched by hardship. It is about becoming deliberate in how you experience and respond to adversity. It's learning not to be hardened by suffering, but to be sharpened by it. It's about converting pain into purpose, setback into strategy, and wounds into wisdom. A strong mind does not run from discomfort. It walks into it with purpose. It understands that the path of least resistance is rarely the path to growth. It embraces resistance as a teacher. It knows that every moment of difficulty is a chance to expand the limits of what is possible. Just as a muscle strengthens only when it is challenged by weight and repetition, the soul strengthens through confronting adversity with courage and endurance. Every insult absorbed without retaliation, every hardship endured with grace, every fear walked through rather than avoided, adds a layer of steel to the core of your being. Strength grows in silence, behind closed doors, in the choices you make when no one is watching. Strength also means refusing to let your emotions dictate your ethics. It's the ability to hold to your values, even when your impulses scream otherwise. It's choosing forgiveness when vengeance seems easier. It's showing restraint when chaos begs for reaction. It's the daily decision to stand for something, even if it means standing alone. That is the strength the Stoics cultivated, a strength that echoes through action, not noise. True strength is cumulative. It's not formed in a single moment of glory, but in the repetition of choices made every single day, especially when no one is watching. It's built in the early mornings when your body resists the alarm clock, but your purpose reminds you why you started. It's forged in the disciplined moments when temptation whispers comfort and your deeper values answer back with resolve. It shows up in the restraint you exercise when rage demands release, and you instead choose words that heal rather than harm. It exists in the silent choice to offer compassion when bitterness would be easier, when every instinct tells you to close your heart, but you keep it open anyway. This strength is not loud. It doesn't come with applause, but it compounds. Each act of self-control, each decision to stay the course when others fold, adds another layer to the inner foundation. And over time, these moments of strength become not the exceptions, but the standard, the quiet force shaping who you are. The world may never recognize this type of power at first glance, because it doesn't show itself in brash statements or dramatic displays. It reveals itself slowly, through consistency, through character. You begin to notice it in your ability to sit with discomfort without fleeing, in the way you respond to criticism, not with defensiveness, but with clarity, in your capacity to stay present under pressure, to hold a long-term vision even when the short-term is painful. This strength doesn't seek validation. It doesn't need to be seen to be real. You feel it in your bones, in your breath, in your ability to look yourself in the mirror and know you've remained true to your principles. Others will sense it, even if they can't put it into words. They'll feel it in your steadiness when the room turns tense. They'll recognize it in your silence when chaos erupts, in your calm while others complain, in your refusal to compromise your integrity for popularity or ease. Your strength won't shout because it doesn't need to. It already knows what it stands for, and it stands quietly, unshakably, as a testament to who you've become. Each day, do one thing, just one, that makes you stronger. It doesn't have to be monumental, but it must be deliberate. That may mean exercising when your body pleads for rest, proving to yourself that discipline outweighs momentary comfort. It may mean saying no when pressured to conform, standing firmly in your values, even if your voice trembles. It may mean rising with the sun to meet the day before it pulls you in every direction. Or it may mean speaking the truth when silence would be easier, because integrity is built word by word. Strength is not forged in grand gestures. It is shaped in the grind of repetition. Every time you choose the harder right over the easier wrong, you chisel away at weakness and reinforce resilience. You declare, through your actions, that you are not controlled by impulse, by fear, or by convenience. The will becomes stronger with every test it passes, and the more you challenge it, the more unshakable it becomes. It might be as simple as finishing what you started when your motivation fades. It might be holding your ground in a difficult conversation or walking into an uncomfortable situation with open eyes and a steady breath. Each time you make the harder choice in alignment with your deeper purpose, you deepen the grooves of strength in your character. These small moments, often invisible to others, build a foundation beneath you. They create a reservoir of inner stability that you can draw from in times of crisis. When the storm comes, and it will, you'll stand firm, not because you trained for it once, but because you train for it every day. Chapter 3. Be unstoppable. The power of inner purpose. An unstoppable person is not someone who never falls. It is someone who never quits. The Stoics emphasized the importance of a guiding principle, a reason to get up, a reason to persist. This wasn't about external goals, but internal alignment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Stop whatever you're doing for a moment and ask yourself, am I afraid of death because I won't be able to do this anymore?" In other words, if today were your last day, would you still be doing what you're doing? That question strips life down to its essence. It confronts you with the reality that time is limited, and what you do with your time is the truest reflection of what matters to you. It's not just a thought experiment, it's a compass. To be unstoppable, you need clarity of direction, not vague ambition or wishful thinking, but deep alignment between your actions and your values. When your purpose is clear, everything around it reorganizes. Obstacles transform into opportunities to strengthen your resolve. Criticism loses its sting and becomes fuel for growth. Delay no longer breeds frustration. It becomes a forge in which patience and perseverance are tempered. Purpose puts wind in your sails and light in your step. It gives meaning to repetition and endurance to sacrifice. It gives you the courage to rise early, to work silently, and to endure the weight of long days when the reward still seems distant. Without it, we drift like a ship without a rudder, subject to every wave, every storm. But with purpose, we charge like a warrior with unwavering eyes fixed on the horizon, knowing that the struggle is not in vain and the setbacks are sharpening the blade. Being unstoppable does not require dramatic gestures or impulsive leaps. It's not about walking out of your job without a plan or making declarations for attention. It doesn't come from rebellion or rage, but from relentless steadiness. It's about showing up for your own life each day with full presence, knowing why you do what you do, and anchoring every small action in a much larger purpose. It's found in the decision to say no to shortcuts. It's the resistance to mediocrity, even when no one is watching. It means evaluating your patterns and habits with honesty. It means asking, are these choices taking me closer to the person I'm becoming, or farther from who I'm meant to be? Being unstoppable means doing what aligns with your core, not your convenience. It means acting with conviction, not when it's easy, but exactly when it's most difficult, when everything in you wants to fold, yet you stand anyway. When challenges arise, purpose keeps you rooted. It makes you resilient in the face of rejection. It gives you stamina in the dry, uninspiring seasons. It helps you endure the quiet labor that no one applauds. It becomes your lifeline when you're navigating uncertainty or fatigue. It gives you the strength to continue when motivation has dried up and the only thing left is your commitment to a principle. It anchors you when external validation disappears. It guides your thoughts when doubt creeps in and helps you stay consistent when inconsistency is the norm. It protects you against the confusion that comes from trying to please everyone, because when you know what you stand for, you no longer need universal approval. You become immune to distraction because you have direction. The Stoics understood that clarity isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity. When you know your aim, the fog lifts, and even when the path is hard, you remain unshaken. The storms that once knocked you off course now become familiar winds. You sail forward, not because the sea is calm, but because your compass is unwavering. With clarity, you don't have to force motivation. You are drawn forward by your mission. You are pulled, not pushed. You are led from within, not dragged from without. You don't need the world to validate your path when the path itself gives you peace. You stop measuring your success by comparisons and start measuring it by integrity, how closely your actions align with your values. You measure your life not by what others praise, but by how well you've lived in accordance with your purpose. You stop asking, "What do they think of me?" and start asking, "Is this aligned with who I choose to be?" That's what makes you unstoppable. Not energy, not talent, not luck, but alignment. Deep, unshakable alignment between who you are, what you do, and why it matters. And when the world presses against you, that alignment is the reason you won't break. It becomes a spiritual armor. It becomes your unshakable base. And once you've tasted that kind of clarity, even briefly, it's hard to go back to drifting. The ordinary becomes unbearable. The meaningless becomes intolerable. The autopilot mode that once felt safe now feels suffocating. You begin to demand more of your time, more of your attention, more of your presence. You begin to cut away what is superficial and seek out what is substantial. You no longer move through life passively. You move with power, quiet, steady, and unstoppable. Your steps are guided by something deeper than mood or impulse. They are guided by purpose. And when you live that way, you don't just endure, you lead. You don't just function, you ignite. You influence, you elevate, and you inspire without trying. You become a living example of what it means to live by principle. That is the force of a purpose-driven life. That is the essence of being truly unstoppable, a person whose life speaks before their words ever do. Write down your core values. Not what sounds good, but what truly drives you. Now look at how you spend your time. Do they align? Adjust one thing today to move closer to your purpose. You'll notice momentum builds, and with momentum, you become unstoppable. Chapter 4. End the war within, conquering the self. The greatest battle is always internal. The Stoics knew this well. They didn't waste energy trying to manipulate every external outcome. They devoted their lives to mastering the mind within. They didn't try to control the world. They tried to control themselves. That's why Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And he meant every part of the self, the passions, the judgments, the fears, the impulses. The moment we become prisoners to those forces, we lose the sovereignty of our own being. You can't be smart if you're ruled by impulses, because your thoughts are hijacked by fleeting emotions. You can't be strong if you're at war with your own mind, if every day is a battle against self-sabotage. You can't be unstoppable if self-doubt is holding the reins, whispering you into hesitation every time you take a step forward. Mastery of the self is not a luxury, it's a requirement. If you do not win that internal war, you cannot win anywhere else. Conquering the self means becoming aware of the patterns that trip you up. Anger, envy, procrastination, insecurity. These aren't random weaknesses, they are learned responses, habits carved deep into our psyche. It means identifying your triggers, understanding what stirs those reactions, and then learning to respond instead of react. Reaction is mechanical, response is conscious, and consciousness is the ground of freedom. This is the part of the journey where many give up. Because self-examination is uncomfortable, it's easier to blame the world than to confront your own contradictions. It's easier to scroll than to sit in silence and ask hard questions. But the Stoics remind us, without clarity, there is no peace. Without peace, there is no power. And without power, we are vulnerable to everything and anchored to nothing. The deeper you go into yourself, the more light you bring to your blind spots. And in that light, you begin to reclaim your inner territory, thought by thought, reaction by reaction, day by deliberate day. Start with this exercise. At the end of the day, review your actions. Where did you act from your highest self? Where did you fall short? Write it down, not to shame yourself, but to study yourself. A general studies every battle, so must you. And in time, the war within begins to quiet. Chapter 5. Build your fortress, creating mental and emotional resilience. A Stoic does not hope for the storm to pass. They train for it. Mental resilience isn't built in comfort. It's built in friction, in frustration, in failure, in the discipline of preparation. Imagine your mind as a fortress. Who or what have you allowed inside? Have you built gates? Are your guards asleep? Every complaint, every distraction, every indulgence, these are intruders. The Stoic mind is guarded, not closed, but intentional. Resilience doesn't mean never feeling pain. It means not being destroyed by it. It means learning to feel the sting of life's hardships without letting them break your spirit. It means building a mind that can bend without shattering, and a heart that can ache without closing. It's not about becoming immune to suffering. It's about learning how to suffer wisely, without losing your integrity, your courage, or your direction. Resilience is the armor of the prepared. It is not a denial of difficulty, but a readiness for it. It means preparing your mind daily for difficulty so that when it arrives, you are not surprised, you are composed, you are not blindsided, you are resolute. This is why the Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. They would reflect each morning what might go wrong today, and then ask, how will I respond? They did not do this to invite misery, but to inoculate the mind against it. They understood that when you anticipate adversity, you rob it of its power to shock you. You train yourself to expect trials, so that when they come, you recognize them, not as anomalies, but as part of the terrain. And because you are prepared, you are not reactive. You are strategic. You are grounded. This daily habit is not pessimism. It is mental conditioning. It is what transforms fear into focus and worry into readiness. Through this lens, resilience becomes a skill, a way of seeing, thinking, and acting that allows you to meet whatever comes not with despair, but with determination. Begin each morning by visualizing the potential difficulties of the day, not to become paranoid, but prepared. Then, decide in advance how you will act. Will you stay calm in traffic? Will you meet criticism with composure? Over time, your mind will grow tougher, and like a well-fortified city, you will be ready for whatever comes. Chapter 6. Build the mind that can't be broken. There is a kind of strength that doesn't show up in your voice or posture, but in your ability to remain unshaken when the world tries to bend you. The Stoics aimed to build that kind of strength, not as a shield to keep out the world, but as a foundation to engage with it from a place of unwavering clarity. When the external collapses, when plans fail, when storms rise, your mind is the only thing you truly own. That's why the Stoics trained theirs like warriors trained their bodies. A strong mind is not rigid, but resilient. It bends, adapts, and still stands. The Stoic does not pretend that hardship won't come. They prepare for it. They don't ask for an easy life. They train for a meaningful one. Epictetus was born into slavery. Marcus Aurelius ruled during plague and war. Yet both lived with discipline, peace, and moral clarity. They knew that what we feed our mind, what thoughts we allow to repeat, will shape who we become. Your mind can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. It can lift you through loss or drown you in it. It can spot opportunities in chaos, or it can invent dangers where there are none. It can bring peace in silence or noise in stillness. It is the filter through which you experience every moment, and that filter is shaped by how you train it. So train it relentlessly. Question your assumptions as if your clarity depends on it, because it does. Interrogate your narratives, especially the ones that keep you stuck. Guard your inputs like a sentry at the gate. Who you listen to, what you consume, the language you use with yourself, these are not trivial. They form the soil from which your thoughts grow. Practice attention as if your life depends on it, because it absolutely does. Attention is the fuel of your mind. Let it scatter, and you scatter. Let it deepen, and you deepen. Most people never realize they've let the world hijack their thinking. They react to every trigger, every opinion, every mood swing. The undisciplined mind reacts blindly, pulled by old habits and emotional tides. The trained mind pauses, assesses, and acts with purpose. It knows how to wait, how to redirect, how to decide rather than drift. The broken mind collapses under pressure, unable to separate thought from truth, emotion from identity. But the prepared mind does not shatter. It recalibrates, it learns, it adapts. It turns disruption into refinement. And most importantly, it keeps moving forward, not out of panic, but from principle. This is the mind the Stoics trained for. This is the mind you are capable of building. Identify the mental habits that weaken your foundation. Do you complain often? Do you ruminate on worst-case scenarios? Replace those with training. Start your morning with intention. Journal your principles. Choose the thoughts you water, the ones you repeat, the stories you live by. Over time, you won't just survive difficulty, you'll master it. Chapter 7. Turn setbacks into power. To the Stoics, every difficulty was raw material for greatness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This isn't poetic metaphor, it's a manual for living. Setbacks are not signals to retreat, they are signals to evolve. When something blocks your path, most people stop. The Stoic turns it into training. Lost your job? Build a skill. Heartbroken? Grow your capacity for empathy and independence. Criticized? Use it to clarify your values. Every adversity is fuel for transformation, not because pain is noble, but because pain is inevitable. And when it comes, we can either shrink from it or use it to forge something better within ourselves. This mindset doesn't eliminate struggle, it reframes it. It shifts the focus from suffering to strengthening, from despair to direction, from helplessness to transformation. It reframes adversity as opportunity in disguise. It asks, what is this teaching me? How can I grow stronger because of this? What muscles, mental, emotional, spiritual, am I now being given the chance to develop? What deeper level of understanding or discipline is being forged in me right now? That doesn't mean you won't feel grief, anger, or fear. These emotions are natural responses to adversity. They arrive uninvited, often without warning. But feeling them doesn't mean you must be ruled by them. It means you recognize them as signals, not scripts, as messengers, not masters. You allow yourself to feel them without becoming them. You step into observation mode instead of reaction mode. You observe them without being overtaken. You examine their roots, understand their purpose, and choose how to act from a place of clarity rather than confusion. You allow the emotions to rise and fall like waves that pass through, but do not capsize the ship. This mindset puts the pen back in your hand. You take control of the story you write from the hardship. You move from being the character to being the narrator. Instead of writing a tale of victimhood, you write one of strength and self-determination. Instead of retreating into your pain, you rise through it, transformed. You may not have chosen the pain, but you choose the meaning. You choose the frame, the response, the tone of voice with which your life is narrated. And in that choice lies your greatest power, the power to be shaped, not shattered by adversity, the power to emerge not just intact, but improved. This is not denial of hardship, it is the alchemy of it. And the Stoics knew, what you transform, you transcend. Take one recent setback and write down everything it revealed about your character, your weaknesses, your resilience. What patterns did it expose? Emotional habits, mental reflexes, or avoidance behaviors? What assumptions or expectations led to disappointment? What did it show you about how you respond when things don't go your way? Instead of hiding from the discomfort, lean into it. Turn the setback into a mirror, not a mask. Let it reveal your raw material, not your limitations. Now ask yourself, what is one thing I can improve based on what I've learned? Turn that realization into a new goal, a specific behavior to change, a discipline to develop, a mindset to reinforce. Take that discomfort and shape it into a principle that will carry you forward. Let it become a lesson etched into your memory, not a wound left to scar. Don't just reflect, act. Let this be the moment where pain becomes wisdom, where failure becomes focus. Let it be the forge, not the grave, of your will. Build from it something stronger, clearer, and more unshakable than before. Chapter 8. Master your attention, master your life. The Stoics understood what modern science is only beginning to prove. Where your attention goes, your life follows. Where focus goes, opportunity flows. In a world designed to fracture your focus, your ability to command your own attention is a superpower. Distraction weakens the will. Fragmented attention leads to fragmented results. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You must reclaim the ability to see clearly." That clarity comes from discipline, not chance. It's not something that simply happens with age or intelligence. It's something you earn through repetition, focus, and intent. Attention is the foundation of every habit, every choice, every emotion. Where your attention goes, your mind follows, and where your mind goes, your life follows. Let your attention drift too long, and you become a passenger in your own life, swept away by trivial distractions, anxieties, and the noise of other people's agendas. But train it, anchor it to your highest values, and you become sovereign again. You begin to act with intention. You become the author of your reality. We live in a world of noise, mental, emotional, digital. But the Stoic walks through the noise without being possessed by it. They do not let the chaos around them dictate the clarity within them. They know that what you allow into your mind shapes your perception of reality. Every thought you permit to linger, every image you consume, every voice you give authority, these are the architects of your worldview. You are what you focus on. You become what you consistently attend to. So the Stoic asks, is this worth my energy? Is this thought helping me grow or holding me back? Is this helping me become who I want to be? Or is it dragging me further from my potential? That simple question becomes a sword that cuts through distraction and a compass that points toward purpose. Audit your attention. For one day, track where your mental energy goes. Notice what pulls you, what drains you, what inspires you. Then start redirecting it, away from distraction, toward discipline. Turn attention into intention, and you begin to reclaim your mind and your life. Chapter 9. Speak little, say much, mean everything. The Stoics valued speech not for its volume, but for its virtue. They believed in the power of a well-placed word, a restrained tongue, a voice that builds more than it breaks. Epictetus warned, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." To speak like a Stoic is to speak from principle, not to impress, not to dominate, but to illuminate, to clarify, and to uplift. Their words are chosen like a sculptor chooses their tools, with care, with purpose, and with precision. Words are tools, sharp when used with wisdom, dull and dangerous when used in haste. They can mend or destroy, unite or divide, build trust or erode it. A smart person knows many things. A wise person says few, but lives by them all. A Stoic knows the value of silence and chooses their voice as an extension of their virtue. They view speech not as an automatic right, but as a disciplined privilege. They understand that every sentence, every phrase, every moment of speaking is an act of moral exposure, one that reveals character more than opinion. We live in an age of constant commentary, of reaction disguised as discourse, where silence is often mistaken for ignorance and volume mistaken for authority. Everyone has something to say, but few have something worth saying. Noise floods every platform, but meaning is scarce. The Stoic resists the urge to add to the noise. They understand that every word carries weight and cost. Words can move people to action or push them into confusion. They can heal relationships or break them beyond repair. This is why the Stoic doesn't waste energy defending every opinion or reacting to every offense. They don't seek to win arguments. They seek to live in truth. They recognize that battles of ego rarely produce clarity, and that most arguments are more about noise than understanding. The Stoic understands that inner peace is far more valuable than temporary victory. They know that silence can be strength, a demonstration of patience, control, and inner security. Silence is not absence, it is presence held in mastery. It is the conscious withholding of reaction, a decision to rise above the moment rather than sink into it. And when they do speak, their words carry weight, because they come from thought, not impulse, from reflection, not reactivity, from principle, not pride. Their speech is intentional, guided by integrity, not ego. They are not seeking applause, they are seeking alignment with what is right. Each word is tested against the filter of character. Is it true? Is it useful? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Does it serve a purpose beyond the moment? Does it reflect the kind of person I am trying to become? These questions are not asked for perfection's sake, but to maintain internal order in a world prone to verbal chaos. For the Stoic, words are not just sounds, they are ethical instruments, reflections of the soul, and declarations of self-discipline. The act of speaking is a philosophical expression as much as it is a social one. The Stoic knows that the fewer the words, the more impact they can carry. Words become arrows, precise, deliberate, and aimed at understanding, not destruction. Their speech does not rush, it resonates. It creates space rather than filling it for the sake of sound. When they speak, it is not to impress, but to express clarity. It is not to win approval, but to uphold truth. Their sentences are sharpened by silence and polished by thought. They measure not just the content of what they say, but the intent behind it. In a world that races to speak, the Stoic slows down to mean what they say, and in doing so, says far more with far less. Their words are the product of silence, of patience, of inner clarity. Their speech is purposeful, their tone grounded, and their silence just as articulate as their words. Even their pauses communicate presence, even their quiet holds weight. They understand that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all, because in that pause, in that restraint, wisdom is often heard most clearly. In silence, meaning can rise. In stillness, depth can form. In restraint, self-mastery is revealed. It's in those quiet spaces that truth has room to breathe, and presence becomes more eloquent than speech. Their presence speaks for them long before their words ever do, and when their words do arrive, they echo with strength, clarity, and timeless value. For the next week, practice speaking only when necessary. Challenge yourself to resist the urge to fill every silence or offer an opinion on everything. Listen more, not just to others, but to your own inner signals. Become attuned to the space between words, to the tone beneath what's spoken. Reflect before you respond. Ask yourself, is this moment calling for my words or for my presence? When you do speak, speak truthfully, kindly, and with purpose. Let your words come from depth, not from reflex. Let them come from calm, not from pressure. Speak to add value, not to assert value. Speak only when your silence wouldn't have said more. The fewer your words, the greater their value, when every word reflects your highest self, your clearest thoughts, and your deepest integrity. In this way, even a whisper can be more powerful than a shout. Chapter 10. Become the fire. To end where the Stoics often began, the fire within you must be greater than the fire around you. You cannot control the storms, but you can become the flame that feeds on them. You must not merely endure life, you must learn to rise through it. Marcus Aurelius said, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." This is not metaphor, it is your calling. The flame within you must be so steady, so resilient, that anything life throws becomes your fuel. Pain becomes intensity, failure becomes wisdom, setback becomes direction. When life throws pain, use it to burn brighter, not out of defiance, but out of transformation. Let it remind you that you are not fragile. You are capable of absorbing difficulty and radiating strength. When life throws fear, use it to sharpen your focus, to cut away the unnecessary and concentrate on what truly matters. Let fear become your teacher, not your jailer. When life throws failure, use it to build your humility, your courage, and your wisdom. Let it humble your ego, but not your soul. Let it remind you that growth lives on the far side of defeat. To be smart is to understand the game and your place in it, to recognize what is in your control and what is illusion. It is to develop a lens that cuts through deception, a mind trained to see past superficial victories or social noise. It is to know how to pick your battles, when to hold back, and how to adapt without compromising your core. To be strong is to endure the game and grow through it, not just survive, but rise stronger with each blow. Strength isn't proven in the absence of hardship. It's proven through the scars you carry with dignity and the calm you maintain while others crumble. It's the ability to bear discomfort, to hold tension without panic, and to persist when quitting would be easier. And to be unstoppable is to transcend the game entirely. It is to see the entire board and realize you no longer have to play by the same rules. You do not flinch at hardship. You do not fear the unknown. You do not beg for ease because you are ready for trial. You are no longer swayed by outcomes because your character is rooted in principles, not results. Your actions arise from values, not emotions. Your resolve is not contingent on comfort or applause. Nothing can shake a person who has already chosen who they are. You don't wait for circumstances to shape you. You shape yourself again and again, like steel in fire, bending only to return sharper, tougher, and more refined each time. This is the Stoic path, not easy, but enduring, not loud, but powerful, not fast, but deliberate, not filled with praise, but full of quiet strength earned through inner war. It's not about shining in the spotlight, but being unshakable in the shadows. Not about controlling the world, but mastering yourself so deeply, so thoroughly, that the world no longer has a handle on you. It is the hidden path, the disciplined life, the philosophy lived in practice rather than professed in theory. It is a path walked without ceremony, a victory earned in solitude, often unnoticed by the world, but felt profoundly within. It is the decision to live aligned with reason, anchored in virtue, and committed to resilience, no matter the climate of the day. You walk through life with the quiet knowing of someone who does not fear what comes next, because they trust what's already within. You've rehearsed hardship in your mind and stared truth in the face. You've seen both failure and success and learned not to worship either. You don't react, you respond. You've trained your instincts, sharpened your patience, and chosen your values over your impulses. You don't seek applause, you seek clarity. You don't aim to impress others, you aim to remain aligned with yourself. You become the calm in the storm, the fixed point in chaos, and the steady hand when everything else is trembling. When others lose direction, your presence reminds them of what steadiness looks like. When noise escalates, your silence has gravity. You lead without leading. You command without control. You influence not with force, but with the certainty that comes from living what you speak. You carry peace with you because you've built it in yourself, brick by disciplined brick. You've earned your stillness. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is the quiet result of hours spent mastering your thoughts, revising your reactions, and outgrowing your old habits. Not defiance, but devotion, to wisdom, to virtue, and to the kind of strength that no one can give you and no one can take away. This is not the kind of power that shouts, it's the kind that holds. It holds steady in pain, in pressure, in uncertainty. It's the kind of power that grows in silence and moves without spectacle. It's the kind of power that radiates not from position, but from principle. It's the flame that never flickers, not because the wind isn't blowing, but because you've learned how to shelter the fire within, how to guard the light that gives your life its shape, its warmth, and its direction. You are the fire, and you've become what the storm cannot extinguish. Each day, choose one trial and treat it as fuel, not as punishment, not as obstacle, but as raw material. Ask, how can this make me better? Then act on it. In that act, you transform. In that moment, you become the fire.